is the World Satsanga on the 16th of August 2014. So we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us, 9 including myself, which is a nice number. The agenda tonight, or this morning, as the case may be, is to look at the links with some of the Hindu Vedas. The Hindu Vedas I'm talking about is how they describe the breathing in and breathing out of the universe, and I'm going to describe how that links in with some of the information I gained with the text I got for the Origin Speaks, because it actually surprised me, because I didn't expect to get the correlation. I was always a bit nervous about the information, because things, when I don't understand things, I find that I have to make sure that they feel right, and I have to do a number of checks to make sure that they feel right and they look right. And if they don't feel right, then I don't introduce them. But this particular one was very interesting when I saw the link between it. I was absolutely amazed and delighted to see the link as well. Okay. Let me just before we start that. So that's how it's just coming. I'm just going to go and dial him in. Okay, and add printer's call. That's so add the call. Okay, right, and then we've got the questions. We've got a question from Chris Woods, who hasn't dialed in yet, and we've got a question from a number of questions. Something like that. I don't know if we can do them all. We might have to pass them on to the next one, because it's quite interesting. Okay, right. I can't see the port. That's doing actually, which is interesting. Okay. So let's add him in again. One more go. Add people. Add to call. Right. Okay. So the information about the breathing in and breathing out of the multiverse, or the universe, from the Hindu Vedas perspective, is essentially it's about the creation and the destruction of the universe, so that everything starts afresh. And although I don't particularly understand everything about the Vedas, to be honest, I was very pleased with the correlation, because the whole point of the expansion and contraction of the universe is to do with how we expand. Everything is recreated, we experience it, we evolve, and then when it's finished its work, it then contracts. And the information I got from the Origin about this was so remarkable that when I spotted the link between that and the Vedas, it was a real eureka moment for me. So I'll describe it now to you. In essence, what happens is all of the source entities are in essence pure sentience, and they were given a body of energy from the Origin to work with. And when they get to a certain level of evolution, they start to understand that actually their sentience is what they are, not the body of energy. It's a little bit like us realising that we're not the human body, we are also an energetic being. And as they do this, they've started to work with understanding that they can move within the area of polyomniscient sentient self-awareness of the Origin. And so what they do is in the first instance, they were given the energy, and they worked with it, and they created whatever they needed to create so that they could experience, learn, evolve. Some of them created multiverses, some of them didn't, some of them created other versions of environment, and some of them populated them with different things. The So it became a condition of they worked with what they were given by the origin. Now, when they finished that role, i.e., when all of the entities that they created, in the case of our source entity, all of us went through the evolutionary cycle and we evolved through whatever multiversal structure was there in the first place and came out the other side and recommuned with our source. The source then absorbed the information, absorbed the evolutionary content, absorbed the learning, and then had to move to a different part of the origin, basically moving its sentience from one body of energy and commandeering more energy to create another body of energy, and then recreating a multiversal environment or something similar to allow it to experience that other part of the origin in difference to where it has previously experienced the energies of the origin. So it's a little bit like moving, it's like weeding your garden. When you weed your garden, if you have a whole flower bed full of weeds, you work on a small part first, and you remove all the weeds, and then the earth is clean of weeds, and it looks nice. But the rest of the earth is still covered in weeds. So then you move to another patch, and then do exactly the same thing there. And this is the same sort of thing that's happening here with the sources. They move from one part of the polyomniscient area of sentient self-awareness of the origin to another part, so that they can experience all parts of the energies that are this area of sentient self-awareness. I shan't say all the words, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but basically they move from one part to another part and experience the differences between the energies in that part that they've just been in and the new energies they're moving to. And they create this body of energy, and they create an environment which is either the same or slightly different. And it's when they do this, the entities that they populate, or those smaller units of themselves, the smaller units of God, and I'm starting to understand that we are smaller units of sentience of our source or our God. Then when we've moved through that structure again in this different location, we were able to experience more things, and then we recommune with the source, and the source moves its sentience. So, and as we move through these different cycles, we get faster and faster at it, because we get more used to being in the environment, and things happen faster because we know the ropes, so to speak. And my understanding is that this particular evolutionary cycle that we're doing now is the third one, and we've only recently started it, from what I can understand from the information I've been getting. So we have, in terms of the Vedas, the expansion, the breathing in, okay, or the breathing out, breathing in and the breathing out. From my understanding, the breathing out is the expansion. That's the sentience of a source entity moving its sentience from one part of the origin to another part of the origin, the area that it exists within, and commandeering a body of energy and populating it with an environment and with other smaller units of itself. They do their work, they experience that environment, they learn, they evolve, they move up the structure of the environment, and then they recommune with the source. And then it's contracted, it's made smaller. So then there's the breathing in. So everything is pulled back in again and made small. So then the sentience is removed from that body of energy, and then it moves to another pocket of energy and commandeers that, and then expands again. In the sense of the Vedas, they breathe out, and they create another environment, another multiverse, in our case, and then populate it again with smaller units of itself to experience it again. So that's when I'm seeing the links between the Vedas in terms of how the expansion and contraction of the universe, or in our case, the understanding of the multiverse, the creation and destruction of the universal multiverse it links in with the information that I've got with the origin. And I'm really pleased with this because it does show that there's validity in the information I've been picking up. Moreover, it shows that actually this information isn't new information, it's just new old information. It's old information that's been there for thousands of years, and it's just starting to come through again and be re-understood, but in a different way. So the information that we're getting from all these different angles, from other authors and other spiritual leaders who are coming on the scene, it's not new news that's coming through, it's just old news, but it's being put into a modern setting, so to speak. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this particular part? Because did I describe it well enough for you? Because I know it's a difficult subject to understand. It's something I actually described in a previous Satsanga as well, physical Satsanga. Nobody has any questions on it? Don't forget to turn your microphones on. Okay. Right. Well, that's the part I wanted to get through about the link with the Hindu Vedas, because it's important to understand that there are pieces of work that everybody's doing that do link in with this very old information, this very old knowledge, and it's even the new stuff coming from anybody's channeled works can link in with it, provided they can spot the links properly. Okay. So, if there's no questions, I want to go on to the one of the questions first, actually from Chris, because Chris asked a question. Unfortunately, he's not dialed in, but he said, his question for the Satsanga is, out of the nothingness comes the light, out of the light comes the somethingness. How can one experience the door to nowhere, the nothingness? And I'm going to have to just ask that question myself, actually, because it's the nothingness. So the nothingness. Okay. Actually, it's quite interesting. That links in nicely with the area that is not populated before it's populated. I'll explain that again. I'll just explain the breathing in and breathing out. The Hindu Vedas talk about the expansion and contraction of the universe or the multiverse, and that's to do with the source entities moving their sentience from one body of energy to a new body of energy, and then creating the multiversal environment, and then essentially populating with smaller parts of themselves so they can experience the minute detail of it. That's going from nothingness to somethingness, because without the sentience attached to a body of energy, that body of energy is really, it's doing nothing, isn't it? It's doing nothing. There's nothing happening to it. And so it's only when the sentience assigns itself to a body of energies or commandeers a number of, or should I say, a volume of energies or an area of energies, that energy starts to become useful and starts to become thinking and starts to be sentient and have purpose. So, to answer Chrissy's question, how do we experience nothingness? Well, we have to. I'm just asking the question of the source here. We would have to apparently move ourselves out of the structure of our multiverse so that we can experience the part of the source which is itself. It's not quite the nothingness, because it's a body of energy that is basically has a sentience assigned to it, which is as close as we're going to get. The only other way to experience nothingness is to go into the space in between the source entities, where it doesn't have any sentience assigned as a source entity sentience, and it doesn't have any sentience assigned to it as the origin's sentience. And although the origin has this area of polyomniscient, sentient self-awareness, actually there's large areas of it which it hasn't mapped out, and that's what the source entities are doing. And as they do that, they assign sentience to it, and it becomes active, it becomes useful to the origin. And it also becomes understood, because the source entities and their creations, us, a source entity's case, are able to understand the minute detail of the structure of those energies and the frequencies and everything else associated with that particular, shall I say, sector or zone of the origin. So the only way to experience nothingness is to go into one of those zones, is to move out of the out of the energies associated with our source entity, and go into one of those energetic zones that exists in between the source entities, that hasn't had any source entity contact or hasn't had the origin assigned sentience to it, and that's the only way. So it's quite an in-depth question actually, and it's something that we really, as individuals who are created by a particular source entity, it's something that most people can't do, because unless you are unless you're another from a different area, unless you're the origin, you are stuck within your own source entity's area. Okay, I'm just going to welcome Apurva, because Apurva's just joined in as well. So thank you for joining, Apurva. Apurva also usually joins into the Far East Satsanga. So that really is a good question from Chris, because it actually links in nicely with the understanding about the breathing in and breathing out that the Vedas give us, and how the source entities move from one body of energy to another, expanding themselves into these energies, then experiencing it, then contracting themselves, and then moving again into another body of energies, and populating it with their structure and their smaller versions of themselves, us, to experience the minute detail. Okay. So I want to move on now to this question that Ulla's got. Was that before I do that though? Is everybody happy with that particular understanding of the question that Chris Woods gave us? Okay. Okay. Good. Right. Now, Ulla's got a question here. She said she'd like to know what happens in a case of suicide, like Robin Williams, who was in the early stages of Parkinson's disease when he took his life. Is that allowed without karmic consequences? And the second part here, what about assisted suicide or euthanasia of humans with terminal or debilitating diseases such as Parkinson's, again, Alzheimer's or cancers? Can the person elect to end the experience at an early stage without suffering the whole course of the disease? Ooh. My understanding is that any early demise of the physical form that is achieved by the incarnate is a particular problem. It doesn't really create karmic consequences per se, because the karmic consequence is to do with the relationship with the physical in terms of actions, behaviours and addictions, sensory addictions. But what it does do is it's I think the word sin is the wrong word to use, but it's a crime. it's defiling a very rare and precious vehicle, and the human form and any of the incarnate vehicles that are within the physical universe at any of the frequencies are in short supply and in great demand. There are many souls lined up wanting to experience incarnation, and in some instances some bodies do have more than one soul attached to them, so that they can all experience incarnation with one body. So sometimes there's 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 or even 7 souls attached to a single human form, and that's why when that's uncontrolled, that's when we sometimes get schizophrenic responses, because the personality of the person changes as a different soul takes over. But the thing is, because they're so rare, and because there's not many of them, and we think that 7 billion human bodies on the earth is a lot. It actually isn't a lot when we understand that there's countless billions countless trillions of individualized units of the source out there waiting to incarnate. And so there's that problem there where if we didn't finish the life, we'd have to do it again. So if you want to call that karma, you can do, but you've got to come and do the life again because you've ended it early. The other thing is that really, if you end your life, you've not fulfilled your life plan. And that life plan is a commitment that we make as sentient energetic beings who are projecting parts of ourselves into the human form, have agreed upon. It's almost like a contract, I guess, to fulfill whilst incarnate in these lower frequencies. And that means that we've got a lot of things to experience, and these lots of things to experience allow us to evolve. And it's this evolutionary content that we accrue that is passed on. We always keep it ourselves, of course, but it's passed on to our source entity, and it's also passed on to the origin. But there's it's this ability to accrue this sentience that we will have negated, basically. So, the agreements to accrue this evolution, not sentience, is what we've negated. And so we've walked away from the contract. So that's a very, very big problem. Part of this contract may well be to experience these illnesses right from the start and right to the very end. Some people only experience them to a certain point. For instance, one person might, I'll use an example that's sort of quite close to me. One person might experience a brain tumour for a long time and then go right to the very end of the disease, where they've got debilitating headaches, they're on morphine drips, and they've got sedatives and all sorts of things to sort of help them on their way at the end of their life. Other people don't go that far. Other people find out about their disease and they suddenly drop down dead, so to speak, because they're spared some aspect of the disease. They may well have only agreed to experience the illness to a certain point as an incarnate entity within the human form, and not experience all of it. So those who were in the instance of having a terminal illness like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer, etc., who die early on, for instance, they may well have chosen just to experience the disharmony of energies, the knowledge that they've got a short lifespan left, all of the uncertainties surrounding themselves, around thought processes, their families, having to, all this sort of stuff, all this difficult stuff that goes on in the human sense. They might have decided to experience that, but not experience all of it, not go right to the very end. Whereas others will have done. So those who end it earlier through some form of assisted demise, again are breaking the contract. And it may only be that they, shall I say, reduce their lifespan by 2 or 3 weeks in reality. But the thing is that 2 or 3 weeks may have been the most important 2 or 3 weeks of that existence, because it may well have been that these individuals, whilst incarnate, had to come to a certain level of understanding within themselves, or achieved a certain level of grace within themselves and how they interface with others. And so it really is quite a problem if anybody commits suicide. Although both myself and Dolores Cannon have, in one event only, both of us, quite independent of each other, found somebody who has been given the authority to end the body, end the physical life early. And I'm not going to go into the reasons for that, but basically it was an extreme circumstance in both cases, very extreme circumstance in both cases. And that extreme circumstance was that the person who was incarnate, both of them, I believe, were very highly evolved, but and very highly and a high frequency, but they struggled to stay here. It was difficult for them to stay here, and the opportunity for them to have a walk-in, so that the body was maintained and the souls swapped out, wasn't available, and so. And because there was no opportunity, no other opportunity, there was no opportunity for the bodies were too healthy, for instance. There was no other opportunity other than letting that method of exit via the suicide to happen. But this is extremely rare. This is something which doesn't happen very often at all. In fact, it's so rare that what I'm being told now as I'm speaking is that the circumstances need to be so extreme to allow this level of authority that it's almost like getting it passed off by God Himself, as it were. So it's a difficult thing. And based upon this, in general and in the greater picture, anybody who ends the body or demises the body early, energetically has got to basically go through a whole bunch of different things, and it's one of the things I'm going to be finding out in the book I'm writing now. But basically, it's not acceptable, and it's the repercussions to the soul, to the aspect who has demised the body early, are significant, and they have to go through a number of different processes and procedures again to allow them to finish what they were going to experience. They have to experience it anyway. It just happened to be in a different body. Okay, does that answer that question, Una? And was it understandable for the rest of you as well?
Yes, it just seems that after, you've come to Earth like 8,000 times and you've died every time and gone through the process. I just don't know how much more there is to learn about the death process, taking it all the way to the end. As a veterinarian, I just feel like we euthanize our animals at earlier stages, and it's very humane. And having watched my aunt die in this way, basically lingering for several days until the body dies, it just doesn't seem humane.
No, and I would agree with you there, because I've seen it as well with Anne. But it is, to be honest, it is what we have signed up for. And this is the thing that we as human beings, when we think we're being humane, struggle with. We don't understand what we sign up for, and actually, even animals, they agree to let us end their existences early. Lots of animals die naturally, which is wonderful, because they've had a nice, fruitful life and they've been loved and looked after. It's wonderful for them to go that way, and it's wonderful to be with them when they do die in a natural circumstance. I think that although it's supposed to be humane to end an animal's life or any life early so that they don't suffer, actually I do wonder now whether we are upsetting the apple cart by doing it, basically. So I think it's difficult. It's a difficult one. In general, it's something that should be avoided at all costs. And I think that's the best way forward, basically. I know people say, well, these things are difficult, and it's going to be a hard life if one person's disease is there for 20 or 30 years. But that's what we've signed up for. That's what people sign up for when they have an accident and they lose the use of their legs or a limb in a car crash in their early 20s, for instance. It's all part of the experience of being here. Even the minutest detail about how we get into that process of experiencing different levels of disability as a result of things is planned beforehand, and we know within certain tolerances how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. Although we lose our memory, of course, when we're here, because we enter into lower frequencies, and we also agree to not have the benefit of foresight. But from a human perspective, it's difficult to understand it. But from the energetic perspective, it makes total sense. It's just that we if we understood it better, and we realised that actually, really did fully recognise and understood totally that the human form is only something we're using for a few moments in time, and our true self is a continuous existence. Even as a sentient being, when the source entities move from one part of the origin to another part of the origin, they contract and then re-extend again into different parts of the energy there and create a new body of energy. We still maintain our existence. Then we wouldn't be concerned about the human form, but we do have to work with it in some respects, and we do have to cherish it in some respects, and this is why I suppose in some respects we have this level of the need to preserve it for as long as possible. Okay, let's have a look at. I don't know if we're going to be able to do all of your questions, but I'm going to have a look and see what we can do. Does that answer people's questions? Or the information about that particular question about assisted suicidal demises?
Adriana has a question too.
Okay.
Type up.
Let's have a quick look. Yes, actually, what we might do is, so I can see Adriana's question here. RJ's got one as well. Okay. Ooh, we're in the breathe out at the moment. Oh, just to answer Ludy's question as well. What cycle are we now on Earth? The breathe in or breathe the in breath or the out breath? Oh, this is the expansion still, the out breath, because we're still part of this creation. Everything's being created still. Okay. RJ said, is this related to the Buddhist philosophy of form is emptiness and emptiness is form? Yes, it is, absolutely. There are many things that are understood in the Buddhist philosophies and the Hindu philosophies as well, because form is created from emptiness and is uncreated as well. Okay. The other says yes, only the Om can get outside the SE, which is true. Or only certain types of Om, ladies, by the way. Okay. Adrian says, what about people close to the ones that commit suicide, like family wanting to help and not succeeding? Is there a karma issue here? Is there a karma issue here? Well, no, I don't think there's a karma issue from what I'm picking up. I'm just asking the question actually, and the information I'm getting is that really we elect to experience it on the other side. We elect to experience the level of uncertainty, the level of concern, the level of all the emotions that go through when you know that your loved one has got a terminal illness. All of the helplessness and all that sort of stuff. We elect to experience that side of it as well. So it's not a case of this is just for the experience of the incarnate who's got the problem, got the terminal disease. We also elect to work with that individual to experience the other side of it, the side where we would be the surviving partner, for instance. Whether it's a surviving spouse or whether it's the surviving brother or sister. We want to experience that side of it as well, where we have this level of helplessness or the inability to do anything about it, which is also something that we've signed up for. And in doing so, we experience another level of profound education, another level of profound learning, and therefore a more evolutionary level. Okay, let's have a look at. Does that answer that question, Adrian? Yes, it does. Good. Okay. Well, I think I'm only going to be able to ask one or two of the questions before we go into meditation. Actually, first question was, oops, I think Illa's just sent it through to us. Okay, she has. Could your creation story about the origin of the 12 source entities, or source entity one, be correlated with any Genesis passages in the Bible? Ooh. It said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. What is the Word? Aha. Initial vibration. Well, the Word is on, and it is the resonant frequency of not just the multiverse, but resonant frequency of the origin. So, and in this instance, I think God refers to the origin, not the source entity, as it happens. Although, in actuality, if you wanted to leave it as the source, then it would be the same thing in essence, because when the source was about to create the multiverse and then populate it with smaller units of itself, the word, all that would have been there would have been its own sentience and the base resonant frequency of it and the energies, sentient or not, that are the origin, and that would be on. And so that's it basically. So and that's a base resonant frequency. When he said, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, where did light appear? It's a metaphoric statement for saying, "Let there be something," as against nothing. Darkness is nothingness. Light is somethingness. And so, if we have a creation and let there be light, then what we have is a structure. And if you think about it in terms of the physical universe as we see it now, the light is the stars, and in between the stars is darkness. There's nothingness. So the somethingness, a small version of somethingness, populates the nothingness. But when you then expand it into the rest of the frequencies associated with the physical universe, you then see that there's more light there because there's higher frequencies and there's more content there. It's just that we can't see it or detect it with our machinery. And so there's more somethingness within the physical universe than we can possibly imagine. We'll only start to see it when we can either detect it with imaging systems that are able to spread all of the 12 frequencies, which is unlikely, or when we evolve, I think, when our incarnate bodies are evolved to the point where we are basically incarnating in the top 12th frequency, we'll then see the full content, which means that if we did that, the physical universe is pretty much totally full of content. So there's probably more white, there's more light than there is darkness in that instance. Okay. Is there light in the multiverse? It's if you go further up and go into the multiverse as well, then it's the same thing, isn't it? The whole thing is about creation. The word light is about the use of the environment, the use of the totally unused, unpopulated energies associated with this, in our case, the source entity, that have no form, and giving it form. So if you think of it in terms of formlessness versus form, which also links in with RJ's question, then the formlessness was nothingness, was darkness, and the form is light, which is structure. And so we've got the creation of the multiverse. So I think that may answer that particular question. I think we've got a chance for one more. We can always put these onto the next Satsanga because there's lots here, which is very, very good. So after you, right, question number 2 said, if you are created by one source entity, you are stuck with that source entity forever, bound by their energetic and evolutionary imprint. Yes. Even after the new cycle of breathing in and out, yes. It means beyond the source book 1, page 203, no one entity will be tied to the source entity that created it. What that means is that at a point when all of the area of polyomniscient sentient self-awareness of the origin is mapped out by the source entities and the origin itself, then the origin will then move its sentience into a new sphere. Okay, and that new sphere is another set of structure. But it knows it's there, but and I think from what I can remember, source entity 12 is what the first source entity to move out there. But basically it knows it's there, but it can only move into it when it fully understands its smaller self at the moment. It's a little bit like us only moving out of our house when we fully understand and have mapped out every aspect of our house, not just the rooms and the corridors and the stairs and the cupboards and the pipes, but every microscopic and submicroscopic aspect of that house has been understood. Can we then move out of the house and into the garden? Okay, the front and rear garden, or into the suburb in this instance. So it's only when we fully understand that then that we can move out into it. And that's the same with the origin. However, when it does that, it'll bring the source entities with it. And when it does that, the next area it's going to go into is going to be so infinitesimally large in comparison to its current area, which is beyond our capability of understanding anyway, that it will need to have a lot more source entities to allow it to map it out at a reasonable speed, so to speak. And so every one of those entities, those little pieces of sentience that were split off by any of the source entities to experience themselves by whatever multiversal or single universal structure they've created, will gain source entity status and will be able to go out and create, or should I say, commandeer their own bodies of energies and create their own multiversal structure. So at some point in the future, and all of us will end up being source entities. At that point, we won't be linked to any source entity. We'll be source entities in our own right. But that is so far in a future event space that it's difficult to it's difficult to even conceive. Let's put it that way. Okay, right. Does that answer that question? Does that answer that question, Ulla? Good. Okay. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to go into meditation, if that's okay with everybody. We've gone through 3/4 of an hour, and the rest of those questions we can put into another Satsanga, which will be in September. Actually, the 27th of September. But what I want to do now is to go into the meditation, because it's going to be a little bit longer than the time we've got left, so we can move on. We're going to repeat this connectivity with Source that we did last week by going up to a level which I normally reserve for level 3 students, by the way, but because you're working with me in a known environment, those who aren't even level 1 students will be able to come with me as well, which is useful. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now then is get yourself ready for meditation. Is find yourself, if you're not already in it, a straight backed chair. Put your feet flat on the ground, your back straight, your neck straight, your hands palm uppermost on your upper thighs, eyes closed, and your closed eye vision focusing on the area of the origin of the third eye, which is in between the 2 eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Okay. Okay. And I want you to imagine, or use the mentally spoken word to achieve the same thing. That's your inner white corridor. Okay? You're in this white corridor. And there's no doors on these white corridors on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, but right at the bottom, about, let's say 50 metres or 50 yards ahead of us, there's a single white door right at the end. So imagine yourself walking down towards this white door. And you open the door, and inside you see 3 chairs, and you close the door behind you, and in the middle chair is myself, and I'm waiting there for you all. So you can pick a chair, either the left-hand chair or the right-hand chair. And I want you to hold either my left hand with your right hand or my right hand with your left hand. So each of you feel that you're connecting to me by mentally holding one of my hands. Now I want you to imagine that everybody else is linked to you in a circle. So you see everybody in a circle. You see RJ there, Ulla there, Adriana, Mo, Jeremy, Lily, John, Atsu, Rosie, Apurva and myself, all together in a circle where somebody is holding somebody's left hand with their right hand and somebody's right hand with their left hand. So we form a circle of all these people, all these 11 people including me. Okay. And we all link in together, all operate together. And in this circle, we're all linked in with me, and I'm linked in with you. We're all one. And what we're going to do whilst we're all one is do what we can all do if we're all one. We can all do what the most experienced can do. We can all do what the least experienced can do. We can all do what everybody else can do. So I want you to now imagine that our room that we're in, okay, which is a white room, becomes our lift. And then I'm going to push the button with the number 408 on it. And so our lift rises up through the frequencies, past 0 to 1 and 2, and accelerates quickly to 4 and 6 and 8 and 10, accelerates faster, 20, 30, 40 and 50, and then accelerates much faster as 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, starts to slow right down, 400, 360, 370, 380, 390, starts to slow down even more, 395, 396, 398, 400, slowing down even more, 402, 404, 405 now, slowing down, 406, 407, and finally finishing on 408. So we're all together. We're all together in this room, which has become our lift, and we're in the 408th frequency. The final, or the top part of the multiversal structure, the final environment before we seek communion back with Source. And what we're going to do now is notice that the walls of our lift, our room, start to become transparent. So the walls become transparent, and the roof becomes transparent, and the floor becomes transparent. So we appear to be a group of individuals sitting on our chairs, each of us holding somebody's hand with our left hand or our right hand in space, vast tract of space that represents the simultaneous universe, this 397th simultaneous universe that's in the 408th frequency. And what I'm going to do now is move us towards the inside edge. Imagine that this top frequency is like a balloon, and there's an inside surface to the balloon. The skin of the balloon is the difference between the multiversal structure finishing and the outside wider environment that's within those energies commandeered by the sentience that is our source entity. And so in this condition we get closer and closer and closer to this barrier, this inside edge, this inside of this skin, which would be like a balloon, the inside of a balloon. And what we can do now, because you're with me, is we can move out of this multiversal structure and just sit on the outside. So we get closer and closer and closer to this inside edge, and then we start to move through it, just like it's air. It's ever so thin, it's microscopically thin, but it's still there. We move through it, and then we sit on the outside of it, just like we're sitting on a vast sphere. Just like we're sitting on if we were sitting on the earth with no mountains and no houses and no buildings and no oceans, it'd just be a vast, clean, clear sphere. And as we look down below, we can see all the different spheres, all intermingled with each other, all intertwined with each other, that creates the rest of the environments, the rest of these simultaneous universal environments that are part of the structure of the multiverse. Sitting on top of this structure now, this very fine, gossamer thin barrier between the multiverse and the energies that are purely source entity, we can now experience the source properly. And from somewhere within the source, there comes a vortex of energy, a tube of energy, appearing from nowhere. It's white and silver and golden, radiating, pulsating and rotating energy coming towards us. Flecks of energy, flecks of this white and silver and golden energy irradiating around this vortex of energy, this tornado of energy. As it gets closer and closer, it gets larger and larger. And all of a sudden, it engulfs us. We are within this energy. We are within the energy that is the sentience of the source. And so, with this energy, the sentience of the source, it pervades us, it invades us, it starts to move into the gaps in between the cellular structure of our physical form, the gaps in between the atomic structure, the gaps in between the subatomic structure of the electrons and protons and neutrons, the gaps in between the subatomic structure of quarks and strangeness and the charm. And it keeps going down to the subatomic structures, right down to the gaps in between the inu, the start point of the physicality, the physical universe. And so we are one with the source, and the source is one with us, and there is no demarcation between us as individualized units of sentience and the source, which is our creator. That vast tract of sentience which created us, which individualized parts of itself to create us. And so we stay here for a moment, just absorbing the energy is just absorbing the beingness of being one totally with the source. Just be one with the source. Ask for the experiences that you're experiencing in the way that you are, whichever way you are, that they are recorded in your energetic memory so that you don't forget. So if you wished, you could write them down later for your own personal consumption, so you can go back to your journal and experience the feeling of being totally engrossed in source, with no separation with source, because you are the source and the source is you. We'll just stay here for a few minutes just to feel this state of pure beingness, expansive, omniscient, sentient beingness. Just enjoy the state of love, state of wonder, state of awe, state of connectivity, state of knowingness. We'll just stay here for a couple of minutes longer. And so, having graced us with its presence and its beingness, the source starts to withdraw its energies, withdrawing them away from the gaps in between the anu, between the gaps in between the subatomic structures below the quarks, the strangers and charm, away from the gaps in between the quarks, strangers and charm, and away from the gaps in between the protons, neutrons and electrons, and away from the gaps in between the atoms and cells, and then the cells, so that we become separate but within the energy, gaining our individuality again. And then the energy withdraws, leaving us on the surface of the outside edge of this barrier that is the top frequency associated with the multiversal structure. And the tornado of energy quickly recedes and moves away, becoming smaller and smaller. That energy, that vortex of energy, that tornado of white and silver and golden rotating, pulsating and irradiating light moves away quickly into the distance until we can't see it any longer. And so with the connectivity with Source, which we never truly lose anyway, but in this instance has been given to us in this particular way, has now gone, we sink back down below this barrier, back into the structure of the multiverse, back into the frequencies associated with the universal environment that is represented on this 408th frequency, 397th, 397th simultaneous universe. So we move away from this inside edge of this balloon type structure, this gossamer area that denotes the edge of the multiverse compared to the energies associated that's purely source. And the transparency of the walls and the floor and the ceiling of our room starts to dissipate. They become opaque again, being white walls. Inside this room, of course, there is us sitting down. Everybody feels that their right hand is in contact with my left hand, or left hand is in contact with my right hand. But everybody also sees everybody else linked together in a circle, with somebody's left hand in contact with somebody's right hand. So now we're in this room, we can use it as our lift to descend the frequencies. So we move down from the 408th to the 407th, 406th, and we start to accelerate down to 404, 402, and then 400. Then we go even faster, 390, 380, 370, 360, and 350. Then we go even faster, down to 300, down to 250, down to 200, down to 150, down to 100. Start to slow down as we hit 50. Then we go down to 40, and 30, and 20. We slow down even faster to 15, and 10. We slow down even more at 5, and 4, and 3, slow down even more at 2, and 1, and then 0. Find ourselves in the energies associated with the 0 level, the earth level. So now we can move away from the chair that you're sitting on. So if you're using your left hand to hold my right hand, or your right hand to hold my left hand, please now release your hold, and you can see everybody else releasing their holds. And you can stand up and walk towards the door of this white room that we've all worked and traverse the frequencies up to 408 in. So open the door and close the door behind you and walk to the end of the corridor. It's 50 or so yards back to the point where you started from. When you're there, start to come back into the room that you're in physically right now. Open your eyes slowly, and if you've got any water, take a drink of water. Okay, how does everybody feel? Is everybody okay?
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you for that.
Emotional, but good.
Good, good. Rosie, how are you? Not linked on yet. Okay. Up there. Oh, Rosie's writing. Good. Rosie's good. Okay. Good. Adriana's good. Thank you. RJ, you okay? Perva, how are you? I'm sure you're all there. Okay. Mo and Jeremy, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Good. Mo's okay?
Yeah, I just thought I'd let Jeremy answer for a change.
Okay, that's good. Perva's okay. Lily's fine. She's a bit sleepy and infused with high energy. Thank you. Good. And John, how are you? Finally, John, how are you?
Very, very good guy. Very, very expanded energy. Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you all again for taking time out to join this Satsanga. Thank you for your dedication to expanding yourself, because you all do it yourself. I'm just here as a helper. And thank you for your questions. We'll try and use some of the other questions that Lila's got there next Satsanga. Don't forget, all of you should ask questions. If you've got anything, any specific burning desire to find something out, then please ask me. I don't know the answers. I get them from the source. So it's not me speaking. It's the source that gives the information. Although it's clearly my voice. It's when I'm take the information, I'm giving it as a piece of clairsentience. Okay. So. Oh, thank you, RJ. It's very kind of you. In that case, what we'll do is we'll call this to a close. Thank you very much. The next Satsanga will be on the 27th of September, same place, same time. And I'll send you all a copy of the recording as well, so you can play it back if you wish at your leisure. So thank you very much all of you for being here today, either this morning, this evening, or this afternoon. And look forward to seeing you all again next time. Namaste, everybody. Okay. Goodbye. Goodbye. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?